Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday, Lesley.
Happy Thursday, Nancy. How are you?
I'm good. I can't believe this week was actually a pretty rough week for me for some reason. I don't know why.
Me too. I've just kind of felt like I've just had like a mental health, not my best week. Nothing terrible happened. I just kind of like, no, it's not my week. Let's
Yeah,
put it that way.
my manager Pamela, who said I have brain fog this week. I'm like, oh my God, me too. It's like, is it a full moon? Is it whatever people like to blame it on? But yeah, I had brain fog this week too. But today we're going to get focused and talk about this is actually one of the number one reasons why people come to a business coach, because they're stuck in this perfectionism. So do me a favor, if you're watching live on YouTube, like and follow so that you'll get notified of our future videos. But this is a favorite topic of mine because I'm a recovering perfectionist.
I am a current perfect. No, I would say recovering as well. And this is something that I would love to share this point later, but you were so instrumental with helping me with. But this is real. And for a lot of designers, like, we're in the service industry. We want to serve people and do perfect work and present the perfect solutions. And nothing ever goes perfectly in this process, but it's a struggle for I think a lot of people in this field and others, but I notice it especially with interior designers.
Absolutely. And here, listen, here's the other thing. You have to be very close to perfect when you're measuring things to make sure table heights, as one of our clients is having an issue with table heights and chairs. And when you're measuring and ordering things, you have to
The details on quotes and spec documents and RFQs. All the things. Yes, you're right. There is a lot of necessary perfectionism involved in this.
In the process of interior design itself, in the craft of interior design itself, the art of it. But when it comes to your business, if you're stuck in perfectionism, you're just going to spin your wheels for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that is what we help people with, like getting off that perfectionist wheel and moving forward. So it's really hard to admit you're wrong as a perfectionist.
No, that's not what perfectionists struggle with.
Which
Yes,
might
it
be
is.
still something I struggle with a little bit, but yeah, you know what? It's hard to say I'm wrong. I did something wrong. I made a bad judgment call, or I just really need to learn more before I do that again. Like there's something that I can learn. And I think that perfectionists struggle a lot with admitting that they're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Because
Right?
wrong means you didn't do it perfectly.
Correct. But we have to remember that perfection is not the goal. Perfection is not the goal, right? Work-life balance, enjoying what you're doing, being joyful in the moments of life and work is really so much more important than perfectionism. And we also find that perfectionists make excuses when things go wrong, like to blame other people, right?
Yeah, or just try to, yes, blame other people, find other ways to cover for yourself so that you don't have to take the fall of making a mistake, of owning that very human part of all of us where sometimes we screw up, we drop the ball, we forget a deadline, we mistype a digit in a quote, and it's tempting to cover it up. But
Yes.
very important to you don't get over this without owning it and acknowledging it and having that humility and being
Well,
able
yeah, and
to
it's easy to blame the contractor, the client, the this or that. And it's really not about blame. It's
Yeah.
just more about don't make excuses when mistakes are made is really the key here, right? Mistakes happen. And I would rather someone say, and I've said it many times, like I definitely I'll use nice words. I definitely screwed that up. Although my natural New York was like, you know what I was going to say. I have screwed this up. It was partly my fault, maybe not all my fault, or maybe it was all my fault. Like learning to start to admit that stuff is brutal, but it really makes you know yourself better and will help you not make that same mistake again.
Absolutely.
Right? So, okay, talk about the delegating.
Delegating is so difficult at first because I can do it better. I can do it better than the person I hire. And even if they will eventually be able to do an amazing job, it's going to take weeks, if not months, to get them to that point. And we see so many designers wait to hire until they're in a real crunch. And then truly there isn't the time to delegate properly. They just have to well, I just need to get it done. And here's the thing. Like, I was listening to an audiobook last night. I was driving home and they were talking about, this person met a famous CEO, like big, multi-billion dollar company. And like, he didn't kind of seem like the sharpest crayon in the box. And this guy was kind of wondering, like, without being judgmental, how did you get to lead this company? How did you get here? And what he said was, I always want to be the dumbest person in the room, which is a funny response. The point of his was he makes sure to hire people who are better than him at what they do. He hires people that can elevate him rather than him being the one that knows everything and working with people who are subpar. So part of it with delegation is you do need to find the right person. You do
Yes.
need to hire smart, but the right person, they also said this in this book, it's so appropriate we're talking about this today. The right hire is free. And that kind of struck me, but the right hire can help you make so much more money, or they can generate more revenue that they pay for themselves. It's not an expense. And this is something that, like, the more I do it, the more I'm like, yes, take this off my plate. Thank you. I'm happy to delegate this. It makes such a difference for perfectionists because with 75,000 things to do for the business, it's so hard to pick a starting point. It's like jack of all trades, master of none. You cannot do it all perfectly. You have a
No,
better shot of being great if you have smart people, great people that you can delegate to so that they can elevate you. You can do what you like. It just, everybody wins that way.
yes, and it's the hardest thing to convince people that spending the money is going to make you more money. And it's cliche, but it's
Yeah.
true. If you're hiring the right person, and I'll put another caveat on that, and if you're doing the things now that you have free time, that will also make you more money and elevate your business, right?
Yes. Yes.
And we're just going off script here, meaning off script. We try to follow the bullet points, but we're not going to because I just go off the cuff here. You know what it is? It's ego. It's ego. No one's going to do it better than me, but I'm going to tell a story. So when I was in my 20s, right out of college, I got hired as an assistant supervisor in a collections department. I had been working there as a collector, and when I graduated, they put me as assistant supervisor. My supervisor then watched me over 3 or 4, maybe 6 months the most, teach my senior collectors a lot of the reports that I was running, what's important, what I was doing. And the supervisor had a meeting with me, need to talk to you. Don't be teaching the lead, the senior collectors your job, because you're going to teach them right out of getting rid of your job. If they can do your job, then we don't need you. And I said, no, Pat, I remember her name. I said, no, Pat. I said, I'm teaching them so that I can move higher, so I can look for other opportunities. And she's like, well, you're not taking my job, because she was the next one right above me. No joke. Within 6 months, they had jumped me right over her. And now I was her manager and she was my supervisor. And we were great friends. And she was like, oh my God. Like, she was older Irish woman, probably younger than me now that I look back. But I thought to myself, I always do that, right? You're an associate coach in my organization now, and I'm just teach, help, right? Not that I have to teach you much because you're pretty good at it.
Oh, I learn a lot.
Yeah, but you
It's
came in,
helpful.
I brought you in because you are already very good at this. And now you just learn, some of my ways. That's all. But to me, the more I teach you and the more I teach my associate coach, the more I can pass off to my staff, my supporters. It allows me then to learn more, to teach more, and to do more things that will eventually or immediately bring me more work-life balance
Yes.
and more money if that's what I'm looking for.
And both, honestly. Like,
Yes.
that's kind of the double win when you're able to get over that perfectionist trap of holding on to everything yourself, when you can have, like, we always say, the right people in the right seats on the bus. A total cliche, I know, but there's a lot of value in not only having the right person, having them in the right role. And it helps with procrastination because you get to be so much more focused on what you need to do, and your next steps are much clearer when you know the other things are being handled well.
Yeah, so even a bookkeeper, right? So people can say, well, a bookkeeper is not making me more money. Well, yes, it is. If your bookkeeper is stopping you from going into your QuickBooks and doing your transactions yourself and doing your reconciliations and obsessing over how it's not being done right and how it's getting more and more messed up. You hire a bookkeeper, they clean up your books, they start doing it. Now that 10 minutes a day goes to other things for you. That
Mhm.
2 hours a week doing all the transactions, doing the reconciliation or whatever a month, that's now time you can market yourself, you can make connections, talk to people, you can work on a client where you're billing hourly, right? So hire.
Well,
Hire when you need to.
yeah, the bookkeeper, I have like a story about that too, where I did my own books for a while, which I should not be
I
doing.
did it for a long
And
time.
I remember one month, I was at the end of the month and I was off by 60 cents. I had done a 1 instead of a 7 somewhere, and I realized, like, there's probably better fixes. I spent 8 hours going through and trying to figure out what I had done wrong. It was not only massively frustrating, I just thought to myself, "Man, if I had done 8 hours of design work at my hourly rate, that could have been close to without." I don't remember what my rate was at the time, but like $1,000 in my pocket. Instead, I'm angry and bitter and not making $1,000, and a bookkeeper would have done that for a tenth of the price in a tenth of the time.
Absolutely.
And that was the next day, I was like, "I need a bookkeeper. This is not working. This is just I'm procrastinating working on the real work, getting hung up on jobs that, like, I
Yes.
didn't go into the interior design business to be a bookkeeper."
Right. And I'm talking specifically about bookkeeping because that's the thing that people think, well, it's not making me any money. Yes, it is if you
Yes,
do
it
it
is.
right. Right. And so is a web designer. And
Yes.
so is a social media marketer, even if they're just posting for you and it's not bringing you a new client. The time it would take you to do that is time that you should be using to grow your pipeline. I just want to get to Masha's comment here. So Masha's comment doesn't fully show on the screen, but biggest problem for me being a perfectionist, stunting my own growth. I had to read fast, not launching things I want to launch, waiting for the time when I feel I'm more ready, researching the hell out of things instead
Just
of
doing the damn thing.
and improving it after. Okay. This is a
Yeah.
new feature of Be Live. I like that. It does the role. So yeah, Masha, I hope this helps you. I mean, as a copywriter, if we hire you to write our blogs, then my manager doesn't have to do it, which means I can get my manager to do more things that I've been bogged down with that I shouldn't be doing, so that I can do more of this to get people to understand that hiring a coach is a lot more than just teaching you a script for one situation. It's really a support for your entire business life psyche, right? Helping you make good decisions. So, it's time, Masha. You have to hire,
Yeah.
right? And you also can't hire, you have to hire before you get to the next level sometimes. Again, the cart before the horse.
Yeah. And I love what Masha mentioned about researching, because that is such a perfectionists do this all the time. Like, if you have that perfectionist personality, you want to make sure you're doing it right. So you can spend a ridiculous amount of time researching and analyzing. And like, sometimes you just got to do the damn thing. Like, just know a little bit and figure it out as you go. And that's really, really hard for perfectionists to do because, well, it's not going to be perfect. So I'm not going to start until I know that I can do it perfectly. You can't just
Right.
go.
Right. And I'll give an example from a training we had looked at, you and I. But if you were planning your Thanksgiving dinner and it over 2 months, it's going to be a fabulous Thanksgiving dinner. You're going to allow yourself 2 months. You're going to allow yourself 2 full days, 16 hours to plan. Guess what? If you had 4 hours to plan your Thanksgiving, would it still be Thanksgiving? Would you still have something on the table? Would
Mhm.
people still be coming to your house, right? So your mind is going to make it happen regardless of how much time you give it for
Yeah.
most tasks. So when you first came to me about your sourcing, is that the story you were talking about before?
Yes.
Tell that story.
So, being profitable is an important part of being a business owner. And one of the things Nancy taught me early on, because if you don't know, Nancy was one of my first coaches when I started my own business almost 8 years ago. One of the things Nancy challenged me to do was keep my sourcing time under 30 minutes per item. And I was kind of thinking, like, but what if I haven't found the thing in 30 minutes? She's like, no, you have. inevitably, you go past 30 minutes, you spend an hour and a half looking, you end up going back to something you found in the first few minutes, and not because it is perfect, because it is fabulous. The goal is fabulous, not perfection.
Yes.
That is, I still have the Post-it, the exact one I wrote that day on my wall. It has moved from state to state with me because that's one of the biggest lessons I have learned in business is there is no perfect. Our job is to make things fabulous. Fabulous is subjective. There's lots of fabulous, which is a real blessing too, because it means
Yes.
there's a bunch of ways to get to the same result. If you get hung up on perfect, there's only one perfect and it's not achievable. Fabulous, not perfection. That, like, even in life, that has been kind of a guiding mantra for me that has been massively, massively helpful.
And I will even go further and say, if you're expecting perfection from the people you hire, then
Mm.
you're a shitty boss too,
Boom. You can
right?
expect fabulous people, but you're right. There's not going to be perfection there either. And I love that you brought that up because the flip side of the coin talking about earlier is like, well, they didn't do it perfectly. They weren't amazing. It's like, yeah, they're human. Teach them, help them grow, help them understand your value of fabulous, not perfection, and everybody wins.
Right. And, we have a rule on my team that nobody's allowed to apologize, right? Because I know no one's doing anything purposely to hurt the team or our outward facing, persona in the world and our social media. If a mistake is made, there are times I even notice it. I'm like, oh, misspelling in something, or that email wasn't so great. Like, but how can we make it better next time? So I always said we our emails have gone down for hours
Mhm.
because of computer errors. But at times in the past, there's been mistakes that cause kind of big blips. But perspective, everyone. If
Yeah.
I was doing it myself, it would have gone far worse, right? And everybody makes mistakes. So my formula is what happened? How did it happen? What can we do to fix it? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
Bingo. Write that down, re-listen to that, people, because that is the formula for being good at lots of things, but mostly relationships, and breaking that everything has to be perfect all the time because everybody makes mistakes. And if you're writing your staff like unnecessarily to be perfect, they're never going to achieve it and you're never going to be happy.
Yeah. And if you are gracious when they make mistakes, they're going to reciprocate. They're going to have grace for you because you're not perfect either and you're going to screw stuff up.
Correct. So the can't delegate to anyone because no one can do it better. Yeah, maybe you can do something in an hour and you're a $200 an hour designer and you've hired someone for $35 and it takes them 2 hours. Guess what? That's still only $70. If you would have done it, it would have taken you $200 worth, right?
Yep.
So it's all, believe it or not, it's all math. It's just that people,
It is.
it's
Take
all
out the drama, just focus on the math.
All right. I don't know if I can read this fast enough, Masha. So first, Masha said we call it
Yep.
analysis paralysis.
Yes.
Absolutely. Which takes us into the perfectionism procrastination. Talk about that.
Perfectionism, procrastination. Okay.
Well, you said
Sorry.
before we went live, a
Yes.
blank piece of paper, right?
Okay. Procrastination is often misconstrued as laziness. Oh, you haven't started. You must be lazy. You're not committed. You're not motivated. Procrastination is not laziness. Procrastination is fear. It is fear of doing the
Oh,
wrong thing. It is fear of not succeeding in the end. It is like, and I know like this is still, I might be a recovering perfectionist, but I am still an active procrastinator who is trying real hard. But it like, I had 4 hours blocked out yesterday to work on a design plan. Guess how many hours I actually worked on it because I was just freaking out about it. Yeah, that is real. And I'm admitting that. I don't like admitting it, but it's true.
yes.
I got blocked up and I just, instead of doing something, I did nothing. And it's not because I'm lazy. I sat at my damn desk. I had the files open and it's all in here. It's all mindset and it is straight up fear. And you have to be able to pull yourself back, realize that like this is not a tiger coming out of the jungle going to rip my face off. It's working on a floor plan and putting some ideas out in the world, but that's scary. Procrastination is fear. when you can admit that and acknowledge that and have grace with yourself and some acceptance and patience with yourself, it's much easier to move forward. You're not lazy.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
terrified because you're a perfectionist and you're afraid of doing it wrong.
And I'm going to say in some cases, you're afraid to do it wrong. And in other cases, you have to know yourself better. Like I work better with somebody side by side,
Yeah.
right? A lot of designers are still solopreneurs. They're alone, right? They're working at their desk alone. And yesterday, maybe to kickstart yourself, you could have called a designer friend and said, just help me get started.
I should have just Voxered you. I didn't think of that. You're
Right.
right. That accountability can really help move you forward when you're having that procrastination, when you're having those struggles, when you're feeling stuck. And for me, it was I couldn't see it. Like, like we're designers, we visualize things. I couldn't see the next step to do, and I just couldn't do anything. But yes, you're right. That's something that can be so massively helpful is just reaching out to someone and saying, "Hey, I'm struggling with this."
Yes. And you know what? Had you reached out to me, I know exactly what I would have done with you, the same way I do it with
I have
all of
another
my
chance
clients.
today. So I'm getting free coaching on the call. What do I do today,
Honestly,
Lesley?
what I do is I say, okay, break it down into 4 steps for me. So what would be the 4 steps?
The step that I realized was I needed, well, this is sort of, I don't want to get into the weeds, but I use Canvas and I use the digital scan. I got the wrong file format. I just need to have them redo the file format I can use. So I did that.
So I would have said, what are the 4 steps to getting this completed? And you would have said, I have to get this,
Mhm.
but my box would back. I'd say, you got 10 minutes to message the girl to give you the file format that you need.
Yep.
And I want you to message me back when it's done. Boom. Now you're like,
Now I'm unstuck.
I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to message Nancy that I did that. And then I'm going to guide you. And guess what? After 2 or 3 guidances, I don't hear from them anymore because now I got the ball rolling for them, right? Which is part of our coaching package is that everybody gets this walkie-talkie to me and to you.
So good.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. I honestly think that's the sole reason why most, if not all, of my clients who do what I say are successful because they're using the walkie-talkie at the moments where they're feeling stuck. So the momentum we gain with the Profit Insiders, interior designers is incredible. But I don't want to digress to that. I mean, the
You bring
bottom.
up a good point though, because as a perfectionist, that was like, I didn't even think to reach out because that's sort of admitting. You know what I mean? Like I don't want anyone to know that I'm struggling over here and I'm being a perfectionist and I'm procrastinating. And so you're right. We see the success with the designers who are willing to be vulnerable and acknowledge that imperfection and
Ask for help.
and ask for help.
Ask for help.
So I'm a
Ask for help.
stubborn mofo apparently, and I should have just asked for help yesterday is where we're going with this conversation.
Well, when we get off of this, you're just going to email or Voxer or whatever you do to get the format you need. That's step number 1. Voxer me or walkie-talkie me when it's done, and I'll give you the next step. So yeah, get an accountability partner. And I loved, I didn't tell you this. I reached out to Jill from
One of our Profit Insiders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you and I are going to High Point. We're doing a panel on pricing. Details to come. So if you're going to be in High Point, but I reached out to Jill because I would love her to be on the panel. And she told me that the Profit Insider group that just ended, they have their own Voxer channel.
So they're all helping each other. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
So they met through our group program and they've continued to help each other rise to the next level. So I just think that is one of the biggest benefits, right? So if you're stuck in perfectionism, get an accountability partner, join a coaching group, do something to reach out and help yourself because now you just wasted 5 hours yesterday and didn't get anything done.
And in
Not
the
to use
2
you as
minutes,
an
I'm like,
example.
yeah, I'm like, oh, while I'm waiting for the files, I'll just print out what I have and I'll start sketching. But I was like, oh God, I'm like, the world has opened up. I got a plan for today.
I know, but you know what? You
Perfectionist.
did other things, I'm sure, because even when I'm
Oh, no.
procrastinating, I'm doing a million other things.
Well, that's, laundry. You busy yourself with
Yeah.
unimportant things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think there was something. Oh, I love this. This is one of the notes was imperfect action is better than no action at all. I
Yes.
did no action. That
Yes.
is, I know that is a struggle I have. I think
Yes.
there's a lot of us that like the fight, flight, or freeze. I'm a freeze. I just don't do anything. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
accountability is helpful with perfectionism to help move you past that freeze or that fear, that tightness, that I don't know what to do next.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's like I don't know, it's like unplugging the dam, like one little forward motion and suddenly everything can happen again.
Yeah, you just have to, okay, so if you had like an animal stuck in the mud and they're stuck and they're stuck, and all you did was lift them up a little bit and give them a little push forward, and suddenly they could get the traction they needed to start walking again and get out of their situation. That's what breaking that perfectionist cycle is like, but it
Yeah.
takes doing it over and over and over again and having that person or yourself. You can have a really strong mind and do this yourself. You do not need to hire a coach. You do not need an accountability partner. Those are just things that help you do it faster. But
Mhm.
you certainly can go, I'm recognizing I'm stuck in the mud, right? And if I could just move this one leg,
I love that analogy.
I can move this one leg. So what's the
Yep.
leg you move? You lay it down into 5 steps or 4 steps. What's the first leg you have to move? Just do that.
Yeah.
Just do that. And then sometimes it's like when people say they're writers and they have writer's block. Sometimes you just brain dump bullshit, just type, 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 type. And
Yep.
all of a sudden it comes up. And of course, I use things like playing a great song and dancing like a lunatic in my house, singing, and things that break my pattern,
Yeah.
right? And those are the types of messages I leave all the time in the morning. So, all right. So, if you didn't watch from the beginning and you are a perfectionist, watch from the beginning. It is going to be helpful for you. But if you are a perfectionist, you might not even recognize it. So, is it hard for you to admit you're wrong? Do you make excuses when mistakes are made? Do you have no work life balance and you just keep going trying to make something perfect all the time? You don't want to delegate to anyone because no one can do it better than you. Are you afraid to fail and try new processes, which we didn't even get to talk about? But it's like going from one software program to another. I can't do that because I'm not going to be able to do anything while I'm doing it because that program's going to have to be perfect before I start using it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can start using it and fill in the blanks of perfection on the way, right? And of course, how to stop perfectionist procrastination, which we gave lots of tips throughout. So this is a big one, and I think this falls under the mindset category that people think they can buy a program, a course, and actually just do it.
Mhm. Just do it.
Just do it. But if you're a perfectionist and you're struggling getting that leg moving, you're going to have a struggle, and you're never going to get through that course, which is why sometimes people need more, right? They need that person, that accountability partner, that coach, that program that makes them unstuck when they get stuck.
Yep.
So, all
Absolutely.
right. So we have tons. We have a blog about this. I put the your URL for the blog, and we also have the Business Building Boutique, which is where all my free and paid content sit. But there's a ton of mindset stuff in there. So go into the Business Building Boutique. You don't have to buy anything, and you can look around at all the free stuff I give to help you guys get off this procrastination cycle and just start making more money and creating the business that you really want in your life. That's what we do. Right? All right. We are out for today. We'll see you next week for Thursday Thoughts. And of course, you guys will see me throughout next week with my lives with other people. If you need us, put a comment below of what you're struggling with because it helps us give you guys topics that can really help you.
Yeah.
And again, on YouTube, like and follow so you'll get notified of new videos. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Lesley.